Welcome to the Regen Doc podcast, powered by dynamicathlete.com. I'm your host, Dr. Aneesh Garg. I'm Yale trained, Andrews trained, and a two-sport U.S. national team doctor here to help you make sense of regenerative medicine. Why is my brain getting in the way of my performance? You've got the fitness, you've got the training, but something's off up there. You're performing at 80% of what you know you're capable of, and nobody is talking about the other 20%. We're going to get into that.
So my first question for you, I train harder than ever, but I can't get back to where I was. My body is fine. It's my head that's holding me back. Is that even a real thing?
It's hard to imagine, but if you think about the people that are trying to gain an edge, everybody's doing roughly the same workouts and the same nutritional components by and large. One of the things that separates people in performances, if it's in sports or theater or anything else in that regard, is the mental side of it. So if you look at this and there's a mental performance gap, how many people deal with stress and anxiety and other issues that interfere with their day-to-day? So now if you have the ability to remove those things or dampen those things, where you can now focus on your sport or on your performance or on your job, your family, you name it, whatever's important to you, if you're able to focus on that, that's the difference. And I think that's really a big key here, where in sports medicine and orthopedics, regenerative medicine even falls prey to this. You're taking care of the body, but are you taking care of the mind in the same way? If you're highly activated and highly stressed, is that a good healing environment or a poor healing environment? You're right. It's a poor healing environment. So if you're assessing people and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to take care of this knee. I don't care how stressed out they are. I don't care they can't sleep. I don't care that they're not optimized. All I care about is that knee right there. What are we doing? Right? You have to take a step back and to be able to look at this and say, all right, I'm going to take care of their knee, but they're so stressed out. I have to reset their nervous system so they can actually give themselves a better chance to heal. Guess where you can't do that? When you have 15 minutes for a new patient, or you're going to a place where you feel like you're treated as a number and they look at the clock and they say, okay, well, it's time for my next patient, get out. Or let me give you a steroid injection so you can get out, right? So I think that's the problem here. When we take time in our office, it's because we're trying to look at the entirety of this and say, how do I get this person in front of me back to what they need to be doing? And what's the best path forward? So if stress and anxiety and brain fog are contributing to your situation, these things are treated as character issues, not actually physiological barriers to healing. And so neglecting that from that mental performance standpoint creates a huge gap. And that's where you try to make a difference. It's not that it's in your head and you're in the literal context. Sure, that's true. But figuratively, it's more about neuroscience and what's going on there and how that's applicable to what is going on in your body and how it contributes to your injury and how it contributes to your injury healing. So that's the fun part. When you get to start augmenting somebody's 20%, that's the difference between you being on the podium and making money. If you're a professional athlete that relies on finishing in the top 3 or the top 5 or the top 10 or whatever, if you're finishing in the money, that's what matters. We're not here just to show up and put on a bib and say, I ran this whatever. We're here to win, right? We're here to show up. We're here to make some money and to win and to compete. And I think that's where you can make a huge advantage.
You mentioned something about a character issue. My coach says that I need to be tougher mentally. Is that really just a mindset problem?
I don't disagree totally, but that's not the only thing. So mental performance isn't about mindset or willpower in isolation. There's a component of neural activation and regulation. So what do I mean by that? If it was just mindset and willpower, then those are things that are in your control to some respect. You can outwork certain situations, you can grind, and I think a lot of people do that. But if there's still something holding you back, then what's going on? So let's use the example that if you have really strong connections in your mind from a neuron standpoint, and we're going to use the term neuroplasticity. We're going to talk about neuroplasticity, and what is it? Essentially, it's strengthening the connections in your brain, in your mind. And so if stress and anxiety or doom scrolling or whatever else that you're doing doesn't contribute to the strength and growth of these connections, they're inherently getting weaker. So just having more willpower or having more determination or mindset isn't just in isolation by itself enough. So then you look at, well, how do I increase neural activation? How do I regulate my nervous system? And that's something that we talk about and what we do in our office and how we contribute to that. The willpower and mindset, that's trainable and treatable. That's not something that is a character flaw. But I think you look at, well, how do I enhance these other parts? And that's where you sort of look at where if somebody's saying you need to be tougher, okay, from a coaching standpoint, I used to coach, right? And I think there is some component to that, but as you continue to evolve and look at this, that's not the only thing that's out there. And so could you do something that can help their neural connections? We use Exomind in our office, which is a fantastic component to help in this regard, where it's repetitive TMS. And what's TMS? It's transcranial magnetic stimulation, which has been around forever. The only difference is this is a more efficient delivery mechanism, and you can tell a difference in your workouts and how you carry yourself and sleep and your mood and all these things. And I'll give you an example. So we had a professional cyclist, and I'll talk about her quite a bit because she's benefited a lot from what we've done. So there's a professional cyclist that we put on the Exomind, and we put her through our protocol. And one of the things that she noticed was all the things that would normally interfere with her training, all the things that would get in her way mentally. After we were doing these treatments, she said they all melted away. So imagine you're trying to train, but there are mental things that are getting in your way, and you now have something that can have those slide away and melt away. You talk about a competitive advantage. So now she's doing something that none of her competitors are doing, and now she feels like she can train harder with more purpose and get more out of it. So I think that's where I talk about where if somebody said you need to be tougher, that's like telling someone, imagine telling someone that you need to be tougher, you just tore your ACL, go walk it off. I mean, I don't know anybody that would do that. But when it's from the mental side, if that's what it is, or they call somebody mentally weak, I think we might be missing out on some things. And that's sort of what we look at. And so if you want more information on what we're doing here and what we're doing in our clinic, go visit dynamicathlete.com. there's a wealth of information there, and I think there will be some things there. There's a whole bunch of questions that are on that website that get answered. So there's a very large frequently asked questions section to that website. So just go to dynamicathlete.com, see if there's a question for you there. If there's not, send one in. I'm sure those guys will absolutely take care of you in that regard. So I think that's what people get wrong when they're talking about the mind and the mental performance gap.
So we talked a little bit about physical performance. How does stress and anxiety actually affect my physical performance? What's happening in my body?
I think in any situation, chronic stress inhibits optimal performance. I don't care if you're on the golf course. I don't care if you're baking cookies. I don't care if you're playing with your dog. I mean, I think chronic stress is a nasty inhibitor of optimal performance. So when you're chronically stressed, so physically, it suppresses athletic output. So imagine your reaction time is diminished, your recovery is certainly diminished, your decision making can be inhibited. So I think when you start to look at chronic stress and the impact that it makes, I think people start to augment what they do. Meaning, well, it's not that big a deal. I'll just change what I do here. Or they're less efficient in what they're doing. So imagine you're trying to compete, but your baseline chronic level of stress is elevated. You're going to fatigue faster. It's going to be harder for you to sleep. It's going to be harder for you to recover. And then you start to spiral downward a little bit. And now you're trying to work even harder just to get back to your baseline. And I think that's where you start to look at, well, I'm just going to train harder and I'm just going to try to outwork this. It gets back to our original point. It's about, this isn't something that you need to work harder. How do you work smarter? And how do you look at some of these things that'll actually affect your component? We talk about mind, body, and soul connection, and the mind and body play a huge role and have to be intimately interlinked to function at your highest capacity. Why do you see people do breathing exercises? Why do you see people working on the mental side of things, and why are they trying to calm themselves down and be in a more relaxed state to be more efficient? That's part of the process here. And, I'll go back to the Exomind and what it does for our athletes. You're increasing these neural connections and the strength of it. So imagine you're working out your mind to get stronger in that capacity. So when we put our athletes and anybody through the Exomind, generally speaking, there's two reactions afterward. And it's much like going to the gym. Those people that go to the gym and are super amped up afterward and they feel locked in. They feel like it's great for their mental health and everything like that. So sometimes people after an Exomind treatment will feel exactly like that. Well, they'll say, I feel super clear. I feel super locked in. This is fantastic. And that's how they react to it. The other way that people react to it is, I just read 200 pages and I'm exhausted. And so not one way is not better than the other. It doesn't matter. It's just the way that your body reacts to it. And it's just like going to the gym. So when you start to look at this and you use the Exomind and how it improves your sleep quality, how it can curb, and it's been shown to curb even binge and addictive behaviors, where imagine if you're making better food choices because of this. Imagine you're sleeping better now, which it's shown to prove that increases sleep and sleep quality. So now you have this secret weapon that nobody else either knows about or is doing. And now you get to compete at a higher level. So it's really tremendous, and I think having access to it is something that a lot of people have been taking advantage, certainly in our clinic. So, I mean, I think that's really been tremendous.
Can you give me a real example of an athlete or high performer who was stuck at 80% and found the other 20%? What changed for them?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of gave that example beforehand, and I think it's really in this component of almost unlocking your full potential. So if there's a barrier to that, then how do I increase my efficiency when I'm working out? How do I increase my recovery? How do I increase my sleep so I can feel better? I mean, we use this example quite a bit. The professional cyclist. It's the same thing. We have a pro hockey player that we're taking care of, and he tells me, he says, I sleep great. And I said, okay, well, let's go through this and see what you think. And he feels like the stress and anxiety is just melting away. Same thing. It's really common, the theme. They just feel like there's some tranquility that they experience, that they can focus, especially these high level athletes. And he said today, in fact, I slept great, even better than I normally sleep. He didn't think that sleep was an issue for him. And he noted that his sleep was better. And you see this look on their faces. They can't wait to get on the machine. These guys are hungry to get on the machine because they know what an impact it can make, right? And so we run them through a series, and we do some maintenance as we continue on as they need. But they see this as another weapon in their arsenal for when they are training and what they're trying to do in that regard. It's tremendous.
What is Dynamic Mind Plus, and who is it actually for? How do you know if I'm a candidate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Dynamic Mind Plus is our protocol that we use, Exomind, in our office in terms of how to help from a sports performance standpoint. So at Dynamic Athlete, there's not a single clinic in the country that has the combination of the things that we have, including the pelvic floor work, the mental side, the shockwave machines, and all of that, plus all the regenerative medicine in that regard. So Dynamic Mind Plus is our protocol and how we help from a sports performance standpoint. How do you know if you're a candidate? I'll tell you, most people are candidates for it, and you're trying to make sure you're doing things for the right reason. And I think that's really the biggest thing that comes down to for us is, are we doing this for the right reason? Is this going to make sense? And so the other thing too is that we want to make sure that we're not missing out on any reasons why you shouldn't do it. Are you having active seizure issues or an active cancer or anything like that would give us pause in doing it? And that's why we really take our time to make sure that you're a good fit. And this is, again, doing things for the right reason. And that's really the big thing for us. So at the end of the day, if you feel like and who doesn't? I mean, I feel like I'm going to talk to everybody that's out there. And I feel like if you're dealing with stress and anxiety, this is a really good option for you. I'll give you another example. So we had a gentleman who was going through a divorce, selling his house, started drinking a little bit more, going through job change, was struggling on a project that he knew was going to be great, but he couldn't get over the hump. We put him through our Dynamic Mind protocol. After he did the first session, he said, I'll tell you what, that this is worth the entire protocol in totality, because I made more money this morning working on a project that I've stalled out for 6 months than what the cost and the investment is for this treatment. So he now has a project that he's got functioning. He's now interviewing at a job, and he said, I went to an interview in New York and I killed it. I was myself. I felt really relaxed. Like everything started to fall into place because he could put his energies toward it, and there wasn't a mental block in that sense. The example that we get, which I love, is before I was on a 2-lane road stuck in traffic all the time. After doing the Dynamic Mind Plus featuring Exomind, he said, now I feel like I'm on a 10-lane highway with no traffic. So if any of this resonates with you, go visit dynamicathlete.com, read about Exomind, read about how you can help your mental performance gap, and we'll see you next time.